everybody, and welcome to another hobby cheating video. As you can see, we're here back in the airbrush booth for this one. So I was watching Ant's paint episode last night, and he had a question about how to paint a figure that's more complicated, you know, using sort of the zenithal highlighting that I had shown you. When I showed you in the previous video, we did this ghost here, right? And you know, as he pointed out, this guy is fairly monotone. He's all one thing. And it's true, this is where this excels. But the tactic can still be quite useful in the case of a guy like this. So what we've got here is I happen to have an extra sort of Bretonnian man-at-arms that aren't too different from the knights he has. It's kind of the same outfit. You can see he's got a lot of variants in here, things like that. So I thought what we would do is kind of walk through the technique and just go through it and show how I would attack this. Now, one thing I'll say right at the top when I'm talking about this is your airbrush is a tool in your toolbox, and it's very easy for it to try to become it's a hammer. It's a powerful tool, and it's easy to for everything to start looking like a nail, okay? And you don't want that. So really, when it comes to figures like this, honestly, most of the time I would probably just brush paint it because I've got a big cloak. I can just glaze it down and go. But that being said, and I'm going to show you both on this single fig. But that being said, I'm going to show you one of the ways we could attack this. Okay? So here's our knight. We're going to start out with the same technique as before. Basically, I'm going to zenithal highlight him quickly. You know, we're going to do some black to white. And when we come back, then we'll talk about how we would use that to apply color and things of that nature. So as usual, I'm just starting with the black, just mixed it up there, and then we're going to go ahead and give him a good prime. I'm going to be fairly quick and dirty and messy here because I'm not really too concerned. I'm just trying to show you more than I am trying to be clean and accurate. You'll notice he's missing a little band off of his flag. I believe that got cut off for some previous conversion. I don't know where I use that, but who knows? Any bits in the storm are usually fair game when I start hunting around. So it's not a good life to be an unpainted fig in my house, because that means you could be cannibalized at any time for the current project I'm working on. I'm not really sentimental with anything that's gray plastic. You could be getting arms chopped off, heads chopped off, anything like that at any given point in time. So you got to be careful in Vince's house. Get some paint on you as quick as possible. That's my advice. All right. So we've got him all primed. We're close enough. Again, I'm going to be being kind of messy here. There we go. Good enough. All right. So now, again, just going to clean out my airbrush real quick. I decided rather than cut, we'll just do this real fast. I can probably do this on camera in about the same amount of speed. So hopefully we won't lose anybody or bore anybody. And if you didn't watch my previous zenithal highlighting video, well, then you can see it now again. There you go. So we just clean out the primer out of the airbrush real quick. Primer is always very thick. You want to make sure you get that going. And then we're going to go to the gray. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and pick cold gray. It's a nice warm, ironically, it's actually a fairly warm gray, because it has some brown in it. So it doesn't actually have any blue in it, which would make it actual cold gray. Again, we're just going to put some paint down in the cup there. Not a lot, you can see. I mean, I'm just doing one fig here, so. Okay, and then at our 45-degree angle, we're just going to give him a spray. I'm going to cover the flag as well. Now with the flag, I'm going to really focus on getting these like highlights that are sticking up. So for example, right here along the ridge of this flag, right? So I really want to hit that and make sure that that's nice and solid. Same on the back side, same on the back of these flaps there. Okay, so there we go. We sprayed him with some gray. So now we've got that. You can see when I turn him upside down. See if I can get that on camera. There you go. Still looks very dark. When I put him right side up, very gray. Okay. So let's get rid of the rest of that gray. There we go, blow that out. Quick clean. We're just quick changing here. We're not worrying about being too clean with the paint because who cares if there's still a little gray left in it when I go to my white. It's not going to hurt anything. You know, we're not to like an actual color yet. So now we're going to go to some just dead white. You can use any pure white of your choice. You want it to be bright. You want it to be devoid of other colors. That's the key, okay? Dead white is not like a true ghost white or dead white or anything like that. Those colors are all of questionable use in standalone painting. Things should rarely end on that color in reality because very few things in the world are that color. There we go. But in this kind of highlighting, it's incredibly useful. All right, so now at a 90-degree angle, right, I'm going straight down on the fig. We're going to put on this dead white. And again, I'm really going to focus in like on this place on the banner. These little highlights here that I want to make sure we can really make pop. Oop. All right, quick and easy lemon squeezy. You see some parts you really want to accentuate, right? You can, like if you want to get just the edges of the cloak a little more so those get brightened up, something like that. You know, get in there, give it a quick coat. We want to make the top of this banner here extra bright. Give that a little shot, maybe a little down at the bottom there, maybe a little more inside there. So you can see there the effect we're getting with that banner. Look at how strong that is. That looks great. Almost looks like metal. It's a good example of how non-metallic metal should work as well. It's kind of funny. The stark contrast. Okay. So there we go. So now we got that guy. So the question that Ant posed was, well, what now? How do you use your airbrush now on a fig like this? Well, my answer is you don't have to. Okay, again, don't try to make every problem a nail. I could glaze paint this pretty fast and call it a day. But that being said, let's talk about this. But, you know, the point of this is to still make things even quicker. How could we use our airbrush? Well, let's assume we want to do something fairly Bretonian with this guy. That is to say, I don't want him to be monochromatic. Okay, that's fine. You want him to have two colors. Let's say I want it to be sort of a split tabard between green and blue. Sure, why not? To where on his tabard, half of it is going to be green and half it's going to be blue, and we're going to alternate between the top and the bottom. All right, sure, let's do that. All right, so I'm going to start with some dark green. An interesting thing about airbrushing colors, they will always be lighter coming out of your airbrush than they are in reality. Okay? Now, I keep this little piece of like cut cardboard here in my booth, and you're going to see why in just a second. So we're going to need that, and we're going to use our dark green, like I said, and just make sure, okay, that's clean. So we're going to thin out some dark green in here. Now, when I say thin out, when we're doing this, we're effectively glazing with our airbrush. Okay? So if I put 3 drops of paint in, I want to put at least that much thinner in. Okay? If you end up having a little more thinner than paint, that's all right. You have to be careful. You can over-thin paint, and then it just becomes water. So know your individual paint, but you want it real thin. Now, I'm going to take my my piece of paper here, and what I'm doing is I'm just going to press that down onto this flag, right? And you can see the angle I'm at. And then what I'm going to do, I really want to press it tight in that fold, is just spray on that green. Now, if we overspray a little, that's okay. So what we get is a nice hard line like that. And I can always go back and clean that up later. We oversprayed a little. That's okay. Then what I'm going to do is take that, and I'm going to set it along his back. Right down the middle. I'm going to use that cut in his back as a guide. Right, so you can see how I've blocked off half of him. So, let's get our paint flowing. And on the bottom here, it's going to be a little careful. I'm going to do that green. And when I get up top, I'm going to focus a little more to darken it up. Flip them over. Don't need to use it here. Okay. We're just being very light with our touch. We're going to overspray down into his pants, and that's okay, because we're going to go back in and paint those later. So there we go. Now what we've got is something that looks like that. All right, you can see how it's much lighter at the bottom. Okay. We want to get the other side of the tabard up top with the green. So again, I'm going to put my little impromptu cover on there. And I'm just going to spray that green. Right over the parts that I want to turn green here. One of the keys with doing this is knowing what you can turn the color and what you can't. You can also just always use your thumb, by the way, to block it off. So what I mean by that is think about what you're going to repaint with a fairly dark or solid color. So for example, if something's going to become a metallic, who cares if I get a little of this green color on there? Doesn't matter, because metal's certainly going to knock away this green color. But if I want to do something else with the Zenithal, I shouldn't do that. So now, there we go. Now we've got him half green. I could repeat this process with the blue, right? And if I wanted, and just get him all the way there. But what I'm going to show you actually is we're going to cut from here, and I'm going to go back over to my normal desk, and I'm going to show you what I would often do, which is just glaze this guy. Okay? Obviously, if I wanted him to be one tone, to be mid-tone, this could be a lot easier because I wouldn't have to worry about, like, you know, doing this cut. While I'm here, I'll go ahead and do the other side of the banner. Really focus in on that ridge because I want it to be darker. And there we go. Get a nice green line right across there, nice and solid, right? And all we did is use, I don't know, just some piece of cardboard or something. So, there you go. When we pick back up, we're going to be over at the regular painting table, and I'll do the other half in blue, and you'll see how we combine this technique with our normal paint glaze and can very quickly do it. Alright, so we're back at the painting desk, and now we've got this guy. We turned him we have him zenithal, and we have him turned partially green here on the cut. And you can see where we've got the natural light being caught out. So we picked that up. Now we could always just do another layer on there, right? I could just make a light green, run it right down the edge of the ridge, call it a day. But again, how much farther you want to go with this is totally up to you. What I'm going to do now is, oftentimes when I paint man-sized figs, the way I start is I literally just get them their zenithal highlighting. Okay? I'll turn my camera here a little bit so it's better focused. Has better color. There we go. Okay. So oftentimes what I do is I just get them zenithal highlighting, and I don't really try to do much more with an airbrush from there. Now, if they have a huge amount of exposed skin, flesh tone's a great thing to do with your airbrush. So if you think of like the Blood Reavers from the recent Age of Sigmar box set, or anybody with like big, you know, their chest exposed, you can hit all that because that gives you a really super solid base for your flesh tone. So that's usually a good thing. If you've got a big bunch of flowing cloth, you can do that. All those things are possible. I mean, when you have a lot of little detail, the airbrush isn't the right tool. Okay, that's just it. It's about using, as always, it's about using the right tool in the right place. That's how you get the best results. When you got a screw that needs to be put in, you don't get out the hammer. Okay, you get out a screwdriver. Same thing here. So when you've got a lot of like organics, hair, scales, fur, things like that, you can stick to like a lot of dry brushing and washing and have very good effects. if you've got a lot of cloth and skin and stuff like that where it's smoother or there's a lot of detail or armor, you need to get out different techniques as well you would expect. So the normal way I would do it would be to just start from this sort of zenithal highlighting where I've got my darks down here in the recesses and whatnot and up under here, and I would just take the blue glaze, I've mixed this blue glaze, and I just run it over real quick. Alright. Let's get him. I need to get him on something so I can hold him. Sorry, I moved over quickly here. There we go. That's much better. Okay. So now I'm going to take my blue glaze and I'm just going to run it right down the side. And this is going to be much the same as what we saw with the Chaos Warrior. Alright. And so there we go. And then we take that. We make that blue under there. I realize I kind of forgot the green on the other side under there just because I was going a little fast. But now, what happens is we get that natural highlighting to have these different colors of blue. Okay? So we can see the darker in the recess. We can see that up there. It'll probably be very evident on this banner. Let's look at the banner here. We'll do the banner because that's a nice big surface where it's easy to see on camera. All I've done is thin down some of our old friend Magic Blue from Vallejo Game Air. And we're just going to run it over this whole triangle. You can see the paint is very watery, so we want to be real careful here, because it will get out of control on us. But the advantage is that when it's like this as well, it just shades what's underneath. So there we go. And so now on that banner we can really see the difference. You can see where this here is just so much brighter than this up here. And that's not the shadow or anything. We've created that shadow. Same with down here on the other side. Okay? So whether you try to go to the next step with your airbrush or whether you try to go to the next step with a quick glaze paint, this is what I do. And the key to these glazes is then it lets you work with it, because I've got this back here, but let's say I wanted to darken this up some. Let's look back at this back ridge. Okay? If I want to take this down, I can just run another glaze right here along the ridge or up top. And because this is so thin, we can create some more contrast, right? I could take it and run another one down this side. And then we create more variation. I could also mix in just some quick white if I wanted to, or anything like that, some kind of lighter tone. All right, and if I wanted to really get the highlights to pop, just really, if I had some thin white around, which I do have some thin white around, I'll thin that out a whole bunch. And then what am I going to do? I'm just going to take this. You notice my paint's still wet a little bit, and that's okay. I'm just going to take that and run it right down there, and run it right down there. Because we're working in this very thin sort of thing, we're basically wet blending almost on the miniature. Okay? Same thing up top. I can take it and do a little highlight there. And there we go. We want to avoid, I'm being very quick and dirty here, so I apologize. There we go. And that's how you could get your nice quick blue-green knight. So hopefully that answers your questions. Hopefully that helps on how to get the next steps with an airbrush, or to take your next steps with Zenithal on a more complex model. Obviously what I would do from here on this guy is I would simply then, take some metallics, put it on there, figure out what I want to do with my banners, these little stripes. Just get through painting it. The point being is that when I can work in these thin ones, a lot of my work is already done for me. Okay? So there we go. We can see what we got with the airbrush. We can see this big tonal variation with the green between this very light green and this very dark green. And you can see how with the glaze over here, we achieved the same thing between a darker color and a lighter color. We just got in there a little manually, and obviously we could push that as much as we want. And by the way, you can combine these. I can brush paint over what I did with my airbrush anytime I want, right? So there we go. If I want to take it up even farther, there we go. I needed to cut some of that reflection out. It's still wet. In real life, that looks way brighter, right? So there we go. And if you ever go too far, you just go back, grab some more of the original blue, and just kind of bring it up and away and smooth it in. Alright, so I hope that helps. There you go, just a nice little quick hobby cheating on next steps after Zenithal and different ways you can go with it, whether it be from airbrush or glaze. Have a good one. Thanks as always, and we'll see you next time.